will be providing a sign language interpretation of the speech. I believe that's the signer and now the governor of Maryland, Wes Moore.
Good afternoon. Madam Speaker, Mr. President, Madam Lieutenant Governor, members of the General Assembly, members of our congressional delegation, colleagues in state and local government, and my fellow Marylanders. 1 year ago, we began our work together. And we knew that while we had boundless opportunities in this state, and we had blinding potential in this state, we also knew that we were leaving too much potential on the table. And 1 year later, we still got work to do. We learned a lot of lessons, some hard lessons. But solving big problems does not happen overnight. But let's be clear, a change is happening. And today, the state of our state, it is strong. We've announced the creation of nearly 40,000 new jobs, many of them in communities that have been historically left behind. We have the lowest unemployment rate in the country for the 5th month in a row. Crime is down across the state, and homicides in Baltimore City are the lowest that they have been in 9 years. And communities that have been underestimated and undervalued now have an important seat at the table in the halls of power. So, I'm proud. I'm proud of what we are doing. But most importantly, I'm proud of how we're doing it. The executive and the legislature are working together again. And it feels good. We choose to sweat the details of governing, knowing that our constituents deserve nothing less. And by moving in partnership, we have helped to make life easier for the people that we are here to serve. We have launched a full frontal assault on child poverty that will lift a combined 160,000 children up the rung on the economic ladder. We've returned stolen SNAP benefits to our most vulnerable, to thousands of Marylanders who are living paycheck to paycheck. We've protected 5,000 Maryland children who are at risk of having their Medicaid coverage taken away. We've worked with farmers and watermen to get healthy meals to food deserts. We've positioned Maryland to meet our climate goals and lead in the cleanup of the Chesapeake Bay. Importantly, we got together and we got some big stuff done. But the truth is, these are not just our wins. These are Maryland's wins. Now, I know I talk a lot about partnership. And I know if the state received a nickel for every time I said the word partnership, we would have all of our budget issues solved. Right, Senator Hershey? But let's be clear, partnership is not the goal. Fulfilling the promise of Maryland is the goal. Partnership is how we're going to get there. Because for too long, we have watched how the executive would pick fights with the legislature in the media instead of showing real leadership and engagement in the State House. So we've decided. We're going to move differently. and our state is going to be better because of it. The challenges will be shared. The setbacks will be shared. But the victories, they'll be shared too. We can't agree on everything, and we won't. The truth is, it would be weird if we did. But we can and we will work together to achieve common goals. And I want to talk about some of those shared goals today. Tomorrow, our administration will unveil our plan to guide our work together. Tomorrow, we will unveil our state plan, and it is the first state plan that this state has had in nearly a decade. It doesn't just set the agenda for the next 3 months, it will chart the course that we will take for the next 3 years. And our state plan is about much more than just aspirational targets. The plan that we are going to lay out, it will lay out specific, actionable, realistic, and measurable goals. And we built these priorities by listening to the people who sent us here in the first place, our constituents. Last year, we went to your districts with you. We toured an electric vehicle plant in Hagerstown, and we sat down with students in Glen Burnie to talk about gun violence. We drove tractors with farmers on the Eastern Shore. By the way, some of those tractors are pretty bad. And we grieved together in Washington County after the tragic and unconscionable killing of Judge Andrew Wilkinson. In our first year, we've traveled with all of you to all 24 jurisdictions in the state of Maryland, and we listened to the people together. Our state plan is not a reflection of my aspirations, it's not a reflection of our aspirations. It's a reflection of theirs. And today, I want to talk a little bit about what we heard. First, we heard that the people of our state want to make Maryland safer. Public safety remains this administration's top priority, and that will not change. We will protect Marylanders where they live, where they work, where they worship, and where they go to school. And hate has no home in the state of Maryland. But if you talk to people in our neighborhoods, they'll tell you this isn't a discussion that can happen in absolutes. That we need to move beyond the simplicity of how pundits talk about public safety and move towards a complexity of how people experience public safety. Because the truth is that the sound of a police siren does have a different pitch depending on the neighborhood that you grow up in. I felt handcuffs on my wrist when I was 11 years old because our community was over-policed and we knew it. However, we still wanted to feel protected from violent crime and people who would have harm in our communities. That people shouldn't have to choose between feeling safe in their skin and feeling safe in their communities. Yet these are the kinds of false choices that dominate the public safety debate. Do you support law enforcement or do you want to build stronger neighborhoods? Do you want to hold criminals accountable or do you want to focus on rehabilitation? We're told to pick a side. Oftentimes by people who frankly do not have an interest in solving the problem. And so to break these false choices, we need everybody at the table. Our administration will continue an all-of-the-above approach to public safety. We will listen to law enforcement, and we will listen to the communities that they protect. We will listen to states' attorneys, and we will listen to the public defenders. We will listen to elected leaders, and we will listen to local advocates. We're up against a new challenge, and we need to come up with these new solutions. Our state is facing a record of high vacancies in public safety jobs. We need to address them, and we will, with legislation that we've introduced. Marylanders are seeking justice for victims of crime, more accountability for people who break the law, and better rehabilitation for our children. We must answer them, and we will, by working in partnership with the General Assembly. Neighborhoods are calling for us to get these illegal guns off of our streets and out of our neighborhoods. And for bringing consequences to those who do not hear us loud enough. And we must hear them. And we have. And I'm proud that Maryland will be the first state to answer the call by President Biden to launch a statewide Center for Firearm Violence Prevention and Intervention, and we will deal with this issue. So for the people who have said to us that we need to make Maryland safer, I say this to you. We've heard you, and we're moving. Second, we've heard that people want us to make Maryland more affordable. In 2022, Maryland was ranked as the 7th most expensive state to live in. We're not proud of that. But I tell you what, that also tells a story. It's a story of the entrepreneur in Cumberland with a bold idea to create a new business, but who doesn't have the money to make rent this month, let alone start a company. It's a story of the mom in Leonardtown who works multiple jobs just to put food on the table. This year, we will address two big items, not just in the budget of every family in the state, but on the mind of every family in the state: housing and childcare. Most Marylanders in rental properties put a third of their monthly paycheck towards rent. Many can no longer afford to live in a home in the same neighborhood that they grew up in. Our state faces a problem of supply and demand. Prices go up because we do not have enough homes. So building more homes will help to bring prices down. I've introduced 3 housing bills to address that in this session. We will create new financial tools to drive development and redevelopment in communities that need it the most. We will build new pathways to home ownership and wealth creation. We will stand up for renters and confront the harsh truth that Maryland has the highest eviction filing rates in America. We will cut government red tape that makes it harder to build quality housing. We must and we will protect our farmland and our wild habitats. And we need to make sure then we're also incentivizing housing in places where we should build. Guys, this is about lives and livelihoods. We need to make it easier for people to live here, to stay here, and to retire here. And to that end, we've assembled the most comprehensive housing package that any Maryland administration has introduced in years. And we will work together to get it done. But making life easier for working families doesn't end with housing. Last month, the comptroller released a report outlining the affordability problems in our state that families are facing every day. The report highlighted that as the cost of childcare increases, overall female employment decreases by 5%. And that's why our proposed budget includes the single largest investment for funding of childcare in Maryland's history. That investment is going to support 45,000 Maryland children this year. And we can make these investments in childcare and housing without raising taxes on Marylanders. There are leaders in this chamber who have always fought for kitchen table issues. I know because I get to partner with someone who has used her life work for 2.5 decades to make this real. Speaker Adrienne Jones. Because of Speaker Jones, Maryland leads the nation in making prescription drugs more affordable. Because of Speaker Jones, reproductive health care isn't just a right for Maryland women and families. Reproductive health care is more affordable too. My friend, thank you for your leadership. So let the people who said that we need to make Maryland more affordable, all the people who came up to us when we were on the road and say we need our state to be more affordable, I want them to hear me clear too. We've heard you, and we're moving. Third, we heard that people want us to make Maryland more competitive. Last year, we got Maryland's economy moving. We secured federal investments in the Frederick Douglass Tunnel Project. We've ensured that the new FBI headquarters will be located in Prince George's County. We have kept the Orioles in Baltimore for decades to come. We've delivered over $1.4 billion to small and minority-owned businesses through the Board of Public Works. We've provided more than 130,000 laptops to underserved households to narrow the digital divide. And we work to accelerate the clean energy transition in every part of our state and not just some. Now I'm grateful to President Biden, our federal delegation, and all of the state and local and municipal leaders who have been fighting for these projects since day one. But together, what we showed is Maryland can win this moment. And together, going forward, we will continue to build on our progress. We will invest in industries of the future with funding for life sciences and biotech and data centers and cyber. We will cut red tape so that Maryland is the friendliest state in the nation to start and build a business. We will make reforms to the procurement process so the state of Maryland can be a true partner to entrepreneurs, and we will engage in a robust debate of how Maryland funds transportation projects across the state. Team, we've got to make it easier for people to travel from where they live to where opportunity lies. But the state of Maryland has funded transportation the same way for a decade. That's got to change. To win the next decade, we need to make Maryland the best state in the country for our kids and understand who it is that we're supposed to be fighting for while we're here. When our young people get the tools that they need to strengthen their minds and strengthen their hearts, they grow up to dream and to lead. That's why we must build stronger pathways to success for our young people, no matter what road they choose. We need to work with our friends in labor and our friends in the business community to grow apprenticeships and job training programs. And we need to keep investing in substance use services, mental health, lead abatement, and making sure that we're taking care of our children and their families. And we need to honor our pledge to make Maryland schools the best in this entire country. It is time. It is time. It is time to support our students. It is time to support our educators. And it's time to support our public schools. And that time is now. And that is why, for the second year in a row, our administration has proposed record funding for K-12 schools and fully funded the blueprint for Maryland's future. The blueprint is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And we can seize that opportunity, but only if we do it in partnership. We must bring together local electeds, school districts, legislators, and yes, the governor's office too. We're going to get this right. We have to. But we have to be clear-eyed, honest, committed, and united in order to make this real. The money's important, but strategy, accountability, and partnership are imperative to get this done right. We've got to spend smarter across all of our state programs in a way that respects the taxpayer, in a way that actually follows data, in a way that responds to the needs of our communities. So last month, we unveiled landmark legislation that's guided by that exact approach. It's called the Enough Act. And we will use it to continue our assault on child poverty, especially concentrated and generational child poverty. engaging neighborhoods, organizations, unions, governments, and households. That's what ENOUGH stands for. But it's more than an acronym. It's a governing philosophy. We believe that people who are closest to the challenge are the ones who are closest to the solutions. They're just hardly ever at the table. If they offer the vision, we can offer the support and not the other way around. The ENOUGH Act is about moving in partnership to create safe and thriving communities. It's about involving our communities and moving in partnership to support healthy and economically secure families. It's about moving in partnership to ensure access to high-quality education and health care for our children who need and deserve it the most. And I'm proud to stand with leaders who've championed this kind of work for years and who've reached out to communities who've been left behind. I'm talking about people like Chairwoman Vanessa Atterbury, I'm talking about people like President Pro Tem Malcolm Augustine. I'm talking about folks like the members of the Legislative Black Caucus and their fearless leader, Chair Janelle Wilkins. Now it's time to make work, wages, and wealth a reality for every Marylander. Now is the time to drive economic growth in all of our communities, including our communities of color. Now is the time to eliminate the racial wealth gap, and we are going to be unapologetic about it. Because let's be clear, the racial wealth gap is not hurting a group. The racial wealth gap is hurting all of us. Because if we can narrow that gap, we will see how it will increase the GDP of an entire state. And do not take my word for it, take data. We can and we will get this done. So to the people who have said to me that we need to make Maryland more competitive, I say this to you. I hear you. And we've heard you, and we're moving. And fourth, and finally, we've heard the people want us to continue to make Maryland the state that serves. And that means supporting those who every single day run towards danger instead of running away from it. That means standing with our state workers who oftentimes go unsung and go unheard. And that means uplifting the families of those who put everything on the line for us to help keep us safe. We will address each of these goals with policy and with partnership. This year, we've introduced legislation to ensure our firefighters receive the medical benefits that they deserve. We've worked with unions to deliver a raise to state employees for the second year in a row. and we are working together to ensure that our military families aren't forgotten. You know, when I deployed to Afghanistan, I thought military service and deployments were toughest on the soldiers. I was wrong. It's toughest on the families. And today, I'm thinking about two people who know that struggle. Our Lieutenant Governor, Aruna Miller, and our First Lady, Dawn Moore. Our administration has declared 2024 the year for military families in the state of Maryland. And we will uplift Maryland service members, military spouses, and caregivers, expanding on opportunities for them to work and secure better benefits. And our Lieutenant Governor, the First Lady, and our Secretary of Veterans Affairs, they will lead the charge. This year, we will also double the number of Marylanders in the service year option. Now, I'm proud to be up here with a person who started this work before I decided to run for office in the first place, Senate President Bill Ferguson. President Ferguson, thank you for your leadership and for your vision. Maryland Corps paved the way. And together, our state service programs are changing lives. I'm proud that we have one of our founding service year members here in the gallery. His name is Tamir. I love that red shirt, man. He was born and raised in Western Maryland. He is serving in the Asian American Center of Frederick to preserve, yes, woohoo, to preserve and celebrate AAPI history. Tamir, you're not only our present, you're our future. And thank you for making Maryland the best place in the world to change the world. We appreciate you. And thank you. So to all the people who came up to us when we were on the road and said that we need to continue to make Maryland the state that serves, we hear you, and we're moving. Those are the 4 pillars of our success this year. We will make Maryland safer, we will make Maryland more affordable, we will make Maryland more competitive, and we will continue to make Maryland the state that serves. And to get there, we need the partnership of our legislators. We need the partnership of our constitutional officers. We need the partnership of our county executives and our local electeds. We need the partnership of our union leaders and our community stakeholders and our advocates and philanthropies and households and neighborhoods and businesses and, y'all getting a theme, right? We need the partnership for people who are willing to serve not just as our inspirations, but who are willing to serve as our guides. We need the partnership of people like Michelle Taylor. Michelle works in a community health center that treats Marylanders who have been turned away by other providers. Marylanders who are living paycheck to paycheck, Marylanders in the LGBTQIA+ community, Marylanders without health insurance. She's a mother of a beautiful daughter named Dominique. And both of them are with us today. Can you both please stand so we can recognize them? We need the partnership of people like Cleota Walker, Miss Cleo. Go ahead, Miss Cleo. She's so beautiful. Miss Cleo is a village elder in Cherry Hill. Miss Cleo sees the promise in every child, and her mission in life is to steer kids, youth, and adults away from violence and towards opportunity. She believes in the power of partnership. She believes in the power of prevention. And her legacy will endure in the future leaders that she has mentored and guided. And by the way, that beautiful woman is 82 years young, and she is still continuing to push. Ms. Cleo, we appreciate you so much. And we need the partnership of people like Dr. Elizabeth Claiborne. Dr. Claiborne is a mom of two and an adjunct professor at the amazing University of Maryland. She loves teaching medicine. But she always wanted to be an entrepreneur as well. As a woman of color, she struggled to find capital to get her idea off the ground, but just like a good Terp, Dr. Claiborne does not give up. She was 6 months pregnant at the height of COVID and still went to work in the front lines at Prince George's Hospital Center. Eventually, she raised enough money to start her business, and today she is the founder and the CEO of her own medical device company that's focused on helping children and families, and it's located right here in the state of Maryland. God bless you, Doc, and thank you. Michelle, Miss Cleo, Dr. Claiborne. They remind all of us that this work will take all of us. In 1 Corinthians, Paul the Apostle wrote about love. He told us that love is patient and kind. Love keeps no record of being wrong. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Well, I think about partnership the exact same way. Partnership doesn't keep score. Partnership has no ego. And partnership isn't partisan. Partnership is what happened when we all learned about Charlotte Hall. Now, I know everybody in this chamber, regardless of party, was enraged and disturbed when we learned about the level of disregard and neglect that was being shown to our greatest patriots. And Republicans, like Jack Bailey, worked with Democrats like Brian Crosby work together to respond. And our administration led by Secretary Tony Woods, a combat veteran himself, coordinated with local and state and national leaders to get to work. 3 months ago, I visited Charlotte Hall, and I heard from veterans about how much that teamwork mattered. And one of them said something to me that I will never forget. He said, "We made thank you for your service actually mean something." He was talking about all of us. He was talking about every one of you. Partnership is what we did and what we saw when a storm hit Westminster in August. The rain and the wind knocked down 30 utility poles. 33 adults and 14 children were trapped in their cars for hours under live wires. If one of them would have gotten out of their cars, it would have been catastrophic. But we worked together with local leadership across the political spectrum. We worked with law enforcement. We worked with our remarkable Department of Emergency Management to get the situation under control. I visited Westminster the next morning. And Lieutenant Governor and I, we walked through damage and we walked through debris. I stood there relieved, knowing that all 47 Marylanders got home safely that night. Guys, when things are hard, partnership only becomes more important. We need to stand united with a clear commitment of doing the work, with a clear understanding that the months and the years ahead, they will be hard, but if there is one thing that the last 12 months have taught me is that Marylanders do hard things. And they want us to accomplish those things in partnership. This will be Maryland's decade. Not because we say so, but because we make it so. Together. Thank you. God bless this great state, and let's make sure we leave no one behind.
Governor Wes Moore's State of the State address. Now with the Republican view, Senate Minority Leader Steve Hershey.